Welcome to Momma-sota, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the beautiful mess of motherhood. I'm your host, Monica Eickman, and I'm here to keep it real. In a world that changes by the minute, parenting can often feel like an uphill battle. We all want what's best for our children, but what that best looks like varies for every one of us. Momma-sota is your passport to the unfiltered, unapologetic world of mommy. No perfectly edited snapshots or unattainable ideals here. We're here to share the ups and downs, the triumphs and tantrums, the mess and the beauty of being a mom. Join me as we explore the raw and authentic side of parenting. This is your safe space to vent, laugh, and learn as we navigate the unpredictable journey of raising strong, capable, and independent children for the future. Hey mamas, welcome to today's episode of Momma-sota. It's me, your host, Monica Eickman. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 3 awesome children whom I love wholeheartedly, but let me tell you, there are days when I question my entire existence with them. What am I doing? Have I gone completely mad? What was I thinking having a second child? And no way was I thinking having a third child. Should I seek help? But then there are days that make all the chaos and insanity worth it. Joining us today is special guest Stephanie Peltier. She is a mother to 5, homeschools them, is a social media influencer, and runs her own business as a parenting coach. Stephanie calls herself a chaos coordinator, and even though I've only got 3 children as opposed to her 5, I couldn't think of a more fitting title for myself either. Welcome, Stephanie, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So definitely with all of the hats you're wearing, we're going to get kind of into each one of those, break some of that down. But before we kind of get into that, just tell us more about you and your family.
Oh, man. Okay. So yes, like Monica mentioned, my name is Stephanie Peltier, and I do wear a lot of hats. Hearing people say it always kind of shocks me a little because like I know all these things about myself, but I think when you live life on the daily, you don't really like go through your list of, oh yeah, I'm a mom. Well, I'm a homeschool mom. Well, I'm also a mompreneur. Oh, and like you don't go through your list. And so once in a while when I hear these things, I'm like, oh yeah, I do all that, don't I? Interesting. Okay, so a little bit more about me. I am born and raised Minnesotan. Been here for a while. My husband and I did move away right away when we got married because he was in the Air Force and stationed in Oklahoma. So it took us about 8 years to kind of slowly move our way back to Minnesota. We've been married over 16 now. I got married at 18. Fresh out of high school. So I know, most people are like, oh, I got married fresh out of college. I'm like, no, mine was fresh out of high school. Yeah. And so since then, we've just been doing life. We waited a little while to have kids. And so we really got to just be together, the 2 of us, for quite a few years before we added our first. But then once we had one, they just kept coming. And we very quickly just kind of rolled into basically every 2 years. My kids are spaced at about 2 years apart. And I think people just kind of came to expect that of us. It was a wild ride. It was a wild ride to have that many young children. And I also am a home birth mom. So 4 out of 5 of my children were all born at home, save for my first. He was born at a freestanding birth center. Yeah, so we've kind of been on a wild, epic ride. I'm all about home life and just helping people to thrive in their home life right now, and kind of grown slowly yet surely in my mothering capabilities, and really enjoyed the ride, even though it's crazy.
So 5 kids, 2 years apart. What are their current ages?
Oh, man. Okay, you asked ages, not birthdays, so I can do that. It's always when people are like, oh, what are your kids' birthdays? I'm like,
don't ask.
Yeah, right. Just pause for a minute. My kids are currently, my oldest, who is my only boy, is 10 and a half. My second is 8 and a half. My third just turned 6. My fourth is 4 and a half. And my youngest is about to turn 3 in January. So we had, one boy right away. And then all of our babies have been surprises. We've never found out the gender. So each and every time that we checked, it was slightly more shocking. Not slightly, it was totally more shocking. Every single time. It was like, okay, what did we have? What did we have? And you'd lift the leg and I was like, another girl?
A girl.
Another one? Like, Oh my gosh. I don't know. I figured there had to be a boy in there somewhere. And there wasn't. And so we have our oldest is a boy and he works hard to take care of his sisters. And then we basically have the girl gang, I like to call them. And they are just so sweet and so sassy.
Yeah, I was going to say with my girls, that about sums it up. Those two
Well,
words
100%.
right there cover it all.
Sweet and sassy.
Yeah, no, we've gone boy, girl. We're it's just two so far.
Okay,
But
well, I
we've
mean, keep
also
going. You
waited
might get
until
more.
birth.
Yeah. So crazy.
So with that too, then I'm just kind of like doing math and whatnot in my head. Were you guys back in Minnesota before you had your first, or did you have?
We were not. My first
Okay.
was actually born in Kansas, but then all four of my girls were born here in Minnesota. We actually moved back to Minnesota, I think when I was like 28, 30 weeks pregnant with my second. So that was a little bit of okay, not little. That was a major stressor.
Especially doing home birth, finding like what's going to be your team.
Yeah, so actually, that was why one of the reasons why I ended up with a home birth is ironically my aunt is a midwife and
Okay.
she was at my birth and delivered two of my sisters. So when that occurred to me that I was like, "Oh, I'm moving home to Minnesota, like yeah, what's my birth plan? How am I going to do this?" And then all of a sudden it rolled across my Facebook feed that she had delivered one of her daughter-in-law's children. And it was like, midwife, Grandma Pam. And I was like, oh my God, right. I know a midwife. So she has delivered four of our babies, which has been really fun. It's been amazing because I grew up with her family and her children. We were a very close knit family and we really grew up together. So having that come full circle and having her be at my birth and then deliver my babies is been really, really special. And I mean, of course, obviously there wasn't even a second thought to who I was going to have as my midwife. And she's been amazing.
That's super neat because, like you said, it's sometimes, like you said, you're just like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then you're like,
100%. Yes. Coming up with a birth plan and a team and feeling comfortable, that it's such a huge stressor. So I feel very blessed that when we moved back here, we had her in our back pocket.
Yeah, with my first, we used a doula, which is actually my husband's cousin, and he had grown up and went to school with
fun.
her and all of that. And it was the same thing, like when she started talking about like, so let's, like do a birth plan. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's that?
Right?
Like that first time, like, wait, I'm like, isn't
have
this
a baby.
Like, yeah, I'm like, isn't that the plan? Like, don't they tell me what to do? And she's like, no, honey.
The plan is the birth. I would like the baby to come out and be healthy. Win. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, wait, there's this choice and then this choice. And then I get to make that choice. And you're just like a whole new world just like opened up.
Absolutely. Yes.
So at what point then too, I mean, like you said, married right at 18, but your first being freestanding, what's the name of it? Like, how does it?
It was a freestanding birth center, which means like it wasn't in a hospital or connected to a hospital. It was run by midwives. It basically looked like hotel rooms. Like they were these gorgeous suites with a bed and a birthing pool but they had like the medical equipment tucked away. My husband was still more nervous about the idea of a home birth. We also lived in a 1-bedroom apartment at that point. So I don't think having, the baby in the apartment would have been feasible, especially because you could hear our neighbors cough. So, I mean, it probably wasn't the best setup. But yeah, so we birthed at a freestanding birth center run by midwives. So it was basically like a really good happy medium between like a hospital birth and a home birth. And it kind of helped my husband not feel uncomfortable or nervous. And he got to see the whole experience. And then when we started talking about, is home birth possible for us? Because he'd seen me birth, he knew the process. He was like, okay, yes, I really think I could get behind this and be comfortable with this.
Right. You'd done it without all the medical intervention, but had the options.
Right. Yep.
So at what point too then, because I don't want to like put anyone in a bubble or a box, but it's more common like when you have the more natural births like that, like the homeschooling is another piece of like, yeah. So at what point had you decided or known that like you wanted to be a homeschooling mom?
So I didn't. That's actually the funny thing. So you put your finger on something that, yes, I would say, trending right now on Instagram is the quote crunchy moms, and they all kind of go the same direction. I wouldn't necessarily have put myself in that category, and I had actually made the decision to send my children to a Spanish immersion school here in the town that I live in. What changed with that was COVID. And so
Mm.
my kindergartner was in my first. He was in kindergarten and he was in school and we were loving it. He was thriving, he was doing amazing. And then 2020 happened. And it was a poop show, to put it kindly. And that really set me over the edge because I'd kind of gone back and forth. Now, a piece of my history that people don't know is I actually was homeschooled.
Okay.
So I'm, if you want to say it, like a second generation homeschooler. I was homeschooled my whole entire life. So I feel like that piece, I was actually kind of like rebelling against that slightly. Like, well, just because I was homeschooled doesn't mean I'm going to do it. And so I kind of had that stance on it, like, I'm not going to homeschool. And then, yeah, and then 2020 happened and it was so crazy. And I went, no, actually, I do really enjoy having my kids home with me. I think I want to give homeschooling a shot. So the next year we did pull him out and decided to start on the journey of homeschooling.
I find that's interesting because like I'm picturing myself and the way like our story and my husband, he had always wanted me to homeschool. And in
Mm,
my mind, I was like, no, I just don't think homeschooling is a good fit for me.
right. Yep.
I was just like, I just don't, even though I did, I had my son and I quit my career, I was just like, I still don't see like that being the path I
Totally.
want to go down. And he
Hmm.
actually started school the year right after, like not after 2020. It had to have been 2022 when it was like full back to
Oh,
school, but
sure.
then they were,
Yeah. Yep.
and same thing actually I did. He's in Chinese immersion. But it's
Oh, that's
interesting
amazing.
to
Cool.
think how maybe possibly that could be different had it been him in school, but then me kind of being forced to homeschool.
Absolutely. Right. And I think we would have stayed on that trajectory because my son was thriving and doing
Yeah, it was
so
working.
well. Yeah. And so I don't know. I don't know if I would have decided to homeschool if it hadn't been for COVID. And really the thing that I tell, because I get, requests all the time on like Instagram, like, well, how did you decide to homeschool? And how do I know if it's right for me? And I'm like, it's not right for everybody. And that's 100% okay. Like it's not going to fit everybody's lifestyle. And I think the biggest thing that we went through was figuring out you have to choose the right curriculum for you. Curriculum is make or break.
Yeah.
And the first year that I did homeschooling was miserable, absolutely miserable. Like I'm like seriously, like I unabashedly say that because I chose the wrong curriculum and I was just pulling myself across the finish line, like by, my fingernails, like clawing my way to the finish line. I was so burnt out, so frustrated, exhausted, and I was only homeschooling one. And so then I was sitting there going, I can't do this. Like, there's no way I can keep this up and add another child to this because I knew my second needed to start, some kindergarten stuff the following year. So that really set me on a path of really diving into studying curriculum, finding what my teaching style is, what my kids' learning style was, what's going to work best for our family. And that's changed everything. I changed curriculum that second year and I haven't gone back because the curriculum that I found just works really, really well for us. And it's more family style and it's easy. It's called open and that's not the name of it. It's called an open and go style curriculum where I don't prep. So I just sit down that day, I open to the lesson, I read it, my children do their work to go along with it. Like I don't have to spend hours and hours on the front end planning lessons and okay, what am I going to do? It's very much set for me. So being, a mompreneur, it allows me the ability to be with my children, fully invest in their education and like be completely present with them when we're doing school, but not spend 8 to 10 hours a day like okay, we got to do grammar, we got to do, spelling, we've got to do, it's all in there. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely my advice for anybody who's looking into like homeschool is curriculum will make or break your journey. Make sure you do the research and find a good one.
That's so crazy to like you said, until you're getting into that, think as like an outsider, just being like, okay, I'm homeschooling. This is the curriculum, or this is what I
Yes.
do. And it's like, no. Because I've been talking to one of my neighbors who homeschools, and same thing. It was like, she spent the entire summer and a
Yes.
half probably figuring out, what curriculum she wanted to do, and like if she was going to do it all herself, or if she was going to co-op, or if, like
100%.
all these things. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. And to each person, you have to figure out what actually works for your family, for your kids, for your family, for your schedule. So you can't just go up to another homeschool mom and be like, okay, tell me what curriculum you use. Oh, I'll use that. Because
Right.
just because it works for her does not mean it's going to work for you. So there's definitely some nuance to it that I didn't expect. I thought because I was homeschooled that, oh, this will just come naturally to me. Like this is going to be amazing and I already know how to homeschool. No. Being homeschooled and being the homeschool mom are completely different things. And I now have a lot of respect for what my mom did with our education, over the years, and just the time and effort and thought that she put into it. I was like, oh yeah, no, it's a lot harder and very different to be the one in charge of the curriculum.
So as a homeschooling mom of 5, then how do you balance the demands of parenting, teaching, running your business from home, and all of that?
Balance. Balance. I'm like such a lovely,
It's one of those words that I'm like, oh, do we
right?
balance?
Yeah, whatever, balance. Yes, that's something I've gone back and forth over several years. So I started my influencer journey over 8 years ago. I've been in this field, if you want to call it that. And very early on, like I realized you could earn income from being on Instagram and, working with brands and all that. And that was very intriguing to me. But at that time, I had really young kids. So I had nap times. They had early bedtimes. My husband has always had a very intense schedule. He is a police officer here in Minnesota. And when I started, he was working nights. So I had lots and lots of extra time to invest in that. Whereas now, add 3 children to that. They've all aged. They need more time. They need more attention. And my husband actually has been on days. I was like, man, I have very little time to do this. What's really helped me and what's worked for me is kind of like time blocking. So I basically have a general schedule to my day that we start school at 9, and I am pretty strong about this with my children that they get up at 8 and they're expected to do their morning routine. We have all their charts and all that. They're expected to do their morning routine between 8 and 9. At 9 a.m., we are sitting down to start school. And then typically our hours for school, we've carved out from 9 till noon. We do it all together as a family, get through the things that we need to. And then my older 2 children who are in, let's say, 3rd and 5th grade, if they don't finish their assignments during that time, they can kind of continue on into the afternoon if they have, a few extra things they need to do. But for the most part, those are our designated focused time that we sit and do school. And then of course we have, our lunch hour and chores. And at about 1:30, my kids actually, my 2 youngest, I should say, my 2 youngest still go down for naps. And then my older kids do something that we call quiet playtime. And this is something I started, I think when my son was 2, because he was one of those kids who just decided he didn't need sleep. And so he stopped napping around 18 months or 2 years. Right. It was
No.
horrible.
No.
But he didn't need it. He didn't need it. If I made him take a nap, he would be up until 10 or midnight at 2 years old because he didn't need the sleep. And so I, as an introvert, was like, but I need some alone time. So we started implementing where he would, be in his room for an hour or 2 doing blocks and train sets and reading books. And so it's just something I worked with him on slowly. I know it didn't start at an hour for sure. It probably started at 15 minutes, half an hour. Exactly. It wasn't a miracle overnight that this just happened. We slowly started implementing this and kind of was I explained it to him, this is your time. You're going to hang out in your room. Mom's going to get some of her stuff done. And so we've held on to and honored quiet playtime in our home for the last 8 years. And it's just been something that my kids kind of know. And even depending on the day, if they're struggling a little bit more relationally and they're at each other's throats, we will do separate quiet playtime where they each take their own individual space, in their room room or out on the couch and they just sit quietly, read books, journal, anything like that. Because, sometimes we do need space from each other to calm down, and that's okay. And so I've kind of explained some of those dynamics to my children that like, this is actually your opportunity to invest in yourself, to recharge, to calm down if you're feeling frustrated with one of your siblings. Like, this is a time that you get to make what you want of it. And so, yeah, my older kids actually, for the most part, really enjoy quiet playtime, and they do a lot of crafting or just like individual play. They do play together also, and they're allowed to play outside during quiet playtime and things like that. But that's truthfully, I would say that is my secret to being able to stay, quote, balanced in some senses, is that I've really worked. Well, I mean, seriously, I'm like, who really balances it all perfectly? And depending on what I have going on or deadlines, or if I'm doing content creation for a course or whatever, like sometimes I do need more work hours. And so then like my husband and I have worked it out that when he comes home at night, he obviously takes over parenting duties. And so like he'll do dinner and bedtime so that I can have a few more hours that night if I need to like knock some stuff out. But yeah, I mean, that's really kind of how we've done it. I have had help with a nanny off and on just in different seasons to help make sure that my kids get the time and the fun that they need, that they have somebody investing in them. But we've, kind of gone through different seasons, seen what works. And I'm like, balance looks different depending on what season you're in. There is never as much as people want that like 1, 2, 3 steps for here's how you'll be the perfectly balanced parent. It is an ongoing process, and it's constantly looking at yourself, looking at your family, looking at your schedule, and going, what works for us right now?
There's so much in there with that answer of value, but 2 big pieces I want to pick out for our listeners to just, make sure like we're grasping is, like you said, with the quiet time, like it started when your son was 1.5 years, 2 years old, and that independent play. And like you said, it wasn't an hour and a half, 2 hours right away. It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And maybe 15 minutes later, he came out of his room and was like, okay, like, what's up? And you're like, well, because I think we hear so often, sometimes like my child won't play independently. They always need me and to be, be involved. And it's like, well, did you all of a sudden at 5 years old, after especially me as a stay-at-home parent, I did this with my son. He had every moment of my attention, every moment of my time. I wasn't, doing the Momma-sota thing then. I didn't have any additional children. And I was just on the floor with him nonstop. And I'm like, but he won't play by himself. Well, duh.
Right. Why would he want to if he can have mommy's undivided attention?
Right. Whereas like my second, just even naturally without like forcing, the independent play, I'm like, she's so much more independent. Yeah, it's because she always had a brother who I was giving some of my attention to.
Yes, exactly. And I think there's so many parents who feel super guilty for not giving their child their attention 24/7, every minute, every day. Like, oh, if my child wants to play, I need to go spend the next 2 hours playing with them. And I'm like, honestly, one of the things that I had to recognize is it's actually good. It is really, really good and healthy for their brains to have that independent play and even to face boredom. In our household, the B word, we call it the B word. Yeah, it's a naughty word in the sense of, I'm like, you guys have, a huge yard to play in. You have a mass amount of toys. You have all the crafting things you could want. You have siblings to play with. Don't tell me you're bored. No, That is lack of imagination. If you come to me and tell me you're bored, it's because you're not willing to actually use your imagination to figure something out. And it's typically those days that, yes, my kids come to me, oh, Mom, I'm so bored. And I go, nope, like, I'm not going to fix this problem for you. I know that you are capable of coming up with a solution to keep yourself busy. And like, I'll send them back down in the basement and like, tell them, no, figure it out. Those are the days that they come up with the coolest games or, imaginative play where they turn the basement into a restaurant, or they play school, or they build, this huge fort. Like, when children are faced with boredom, it actually propels them to use their imagination and dig deeper rather than just kind of getting that easy out of, oh, well, okay, here's the iPad, or fine, let me entertain you. Like, that actually hurts them in the long run. Whereas causing them to use their imagination, allowing them that space and freedom to play in that way and to like stretch their muscles really helps them.
It does, and it's amazing to see too. It's like they have these toys that either they haven't touched for months that all of a sudden they're playing with, or it's the toy that they play with every single day, but they're using it in a way that you're like, okay, that's not
that's new.
the intended thing for the toy. You've never done that with the toy, but awesome. Good for you. And they're entertained forever.
Yes.
Like you said, you just have to get over that hurdle of like, like you said, oh, here's Hungry Hippos, go play. And then it's just like, okay, 10 minutes later, they're done with Hungry Hippos. And you're like, okay, stop solving the problem.
Right. And I think we as moms moms and parents have to let go of like that pressure and guilt, thinking that we are responsible for entertaining our children. It doesn't work like that. Like that's not actually a truth, but I think it very much in our society is a pressure we take on ourselves, especially as stay-at-home moms. Well, like this is my job right now. I'm a stay-at-home mom. So
what else could I need to do?
Exactly. Shouldn't I be there entertaining my child and making sure that they're busy and, having fun 24/7? No, actually my role as a mom and as a parent is more to coach my child, to help them, grow to be like a responsible, well-adjusted child. And that doesn't mean meeting their every need every single second of the day. It also doesn't mean, like making sure that they're having fun all the time. Sometimes there's very real aspects of life like chores and school and homework that aren't as fun, but they are a necessary part of life, and like helping our children to understand that it's not all butterflies and roses all the time.
No, there's responsibility and accountability in life.
Exactly. Yes. We have to do the things that we don't like every single day. Like that's just part of life.
Yeah. That's just it. It's like, it can't be like, welcome to the real world once you turn 18.
Oh my gosh. Exactly.
That's not going to work.
Yes. And I think I ran into such a clear example of that. So again, I got married at 18, bright and early. My husband and I decided to get out, or he decided to get out of the military 2 years later. And then we moved to Kansas and we went to a ministry school there. College. We went to, a ministry school for college. And I will never forget my experience with all of these they were like, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, like fresh out of high school, or maybe they'd done a little bit of college, but they hadn't really lived on their own before. And I was one of the only married people in the school. There was very, very few married couples. So we were kind of an anomaly. And I had so many of these young women approach me in awe. Like, how are you, 20 years old and you're married? Like, how does that even work? And so we'd sit and have these conversations. And like my one friend, she's telling me how their electricity got turned off in the house they were renting. And here's me. I'm sorry, what? Why? Like, do you not have the money? Here's me panicking. Like, do you not have the money? Are you okay? Oh, no. I didn't realize that you had to pay the bill every month. And I was like,
oh no.
Right. And so, cooking, cleaning, keeping yourself up for your husband, like all of these different topics were like mind blowing to them. When they found out I could cook like a turkey dinner and that was like a no brainer for me. I was like, yeah, it's easy. It's not a big deal. Like, mind blowing. They're like, I can't even do mac and cheese. I was like, dude, what? Like, who is training these children? They're not children anymore, but who is training you to be a young adult? Who is teaching you how to do these things? Like, these are practical life skills. You're telling me you didn't know that bills needed to be paid every single month? Like, it was mind blowing to me. And it was actually one of those things that kind of helped set me off in the direction of desiring to be a very intentional parent and not just do everything for my children. Because I realize that as much as we as parents feel like I'm being the best mom I can be if I do all the cooking, all the cleaning, if I, organize everything for my child, you're actually hindering them and you're not allowing them to grow and learn about the practicalities of life. So that was really eye-opening for me. And I think it really helped me with letting go of some of that guilt and understanding that to be a responsible parent, to be, to have well-adjusted children, I actually have to teach them these things, even though, of course, they don't like scrubbing the toilets, but it is my responsibility to help them have an understanding of how to live in real life, because they're only with me for a very short time and then they're out on their own and they need these skills.
No, that's one of the biggest things, like in any of like my descriptions or things, I'm like, I'm raising them to be capable. Like they've got to be able to
100%.
succeed.
Yes, absolutely.
And so the other piece, I know we've kind of come a ways from the question before, but that I want to pull out for our listeners too is when you talked about like you've had nannies off and on, and that like our lives and our everything's changing, is like we are going through seasons, and during the winter I need my winter coat, during the summer I don't. So it's like
Yes.
understanding that like making a decision like a nanny or what, you know, whatever those things might be, is not something that has to be forever or lasting, or
Yes.
you know, we ebb and flow, our kids change, we change. What do you need right now?
Yes. And I love that you bring that up, specifically, of course, you know, for all of our Minnesota moms. We 100% understand the idea of like switching your closet over for the seasons, like winter and summer. You pull out different things, you need different things. And it's totally okay, I think, as parents to have those, to have that exact same thing happen. Like when we're young moms of young children, when you have babies and you have toddlers, it is an incredibly draining and overwhelming time, and in a good and a bad way. Like you can be so completely enraptured with your newborn, but that doesn't mean you're sleeping through the night and, you know, getting all of the rest you need. And it's very tiring for your body if you're breastfeeding, or when you went through, you know, a C-section or delivery or whatever, bottle feeding. You have to get up in the middle of the night, you have to wash the bottles and make the formula. It's so much. And so when we're going through those seasons with young children, our expectations for ourselves, for our home, for what we're able to do should be completely different. For our needs, you know, do I need more help during this time? Would it help me to have my mom come over daily and, you know, help me with some of the chores or whatever? Whereas when our kids get a little older and they can start helping with home life and with chores, our needs will fluctuate. And so, yeah, that's something I definitely, for the longest time, I was not forthcoming about the idea that I had help, that I had a nanny, because there was a bit of a shame surrounding it for me. And I'm not 100% sure where that came from, except for maybe that we expect moms to be 100%, you know, capable and they should handle all the things. And if you admit that you need help, even for a second, like, shame on you, like you're not a good mom. And I went, no, actually, one of the things about being a good mom is knowing when I need help, being able to reach out to community, to my husband, to, you know, my family, and go, hey, I need some extra help right now. And so, yeah, I feel like that's been one of the processes I've been working through even more recently, is just kind of letting go that shame and stigma of good moms come in all different shapes and sizes. There is no, you know, one cookie cutter mold of this is what a good mom, a good parent looks like. It is what is best for us in that season with our family. And like you said, it's constantly fluctuating.
And I think that, like you said, the shame and the stigma and the societal pressure are all a huge piece of it, because,
Yes.
and it's something I'm still, like you said too, even though I'm sharing my story, it's still something that like I struggle through, or I'm working through, because I think that that shame, stigma, societal pressure all kind of combines, and it's something that I still struggle with, or am working through. When I just had my son, I'm like, there's no way I need to ask for help. I've got one kid and I'm home
Right.
without like another job. I can do this on my own. I can figure it out. And also at that time, it was like, I just stopped working. My husband's running his own business and it's smaller. Like this isn't extra help, or things isn't, you know, things we can afford. And now it's like I have 3 kids. Our business is thriving. My husband, you know, will be like, I want to get you a house cleaner, or let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
a nanny, or let's, you know, and I'm like, no, no, no. And it's like, I don't have the excuse now of being like, oh, that's not something we can afford, because it is something that if we choose
Yes.
to, that we, you know, we could fit into our budget. And so now the biggest thing is like, when I try to come up with these excuses, if I really sit down and think about it, I think, like you said, it's just that shame of like, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
admit to somebody that I can't keep up with my house cleaning, or that I need help with
whatever XYZ it might be.
Yes. And I love that you said that, like the excuses for not having help. Why do we think we need to come up with all these reasons to push it off? Like needing help is so valid. And I think there's so many moms out there who are facing burnout and exhaustion because really, going back to the quote balance myth, they're trying to do everything themselves. They are literally taking the entire burden of running their household, watching over their kids' schedules, meeting their emotional needs, like all of these things, they're taking it on themselves. And then you wonder why these moms are burnt out and exhausted and overwhelmed because we've been kind of like preconditioned to go, oh, well, if you need help, it means you're not a good mom or you can't handle it all. And that's not the truth. It really isn't. Our world and the lifestyles that we live are so fast paced. There's so much going on all the time that it's totally plausible to say, yeah, I need a little help in this season, or, just take the time for yourself too. Because we as moms, I know none of us are strangers to the idea that it's really hard to get time for yourself. And I think that's something I see a lot of moms struggling with is like, well, I feel selfish. I feel so selfish if, I don't clean my house or I take an hour off to go get coffee and walk around Target or any of these things. Like this idea that if we invest in ourselves as wives, as moms, as women, it's somehow taking away from our children. And it's so wrong and it's so warped, but I think it's something that's really been ingrained in our minds.
100%, because you say all of those things and in my head I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Like,
right.
I feel all of that.
Right, exactly. And then even you'll get the people who are like, oh no, I totally, like, yeah, I understand self-care. And then when they say self-care, they're like, I'm like, well, what do you do for self-care? Oh, well, I sat in my bathroom for 15 minutes a day and painted my toenails. That was my self-care. I'm like, is it? Like, is that really nourishing your heart and your soul and making you feel refreshed and allowing you to be able to meet your children's emotional needs? Like, you're telling me painting your toenails for 5 minutes did all that for you? Because it doesn't for me. And I think it's one of the things that I've started sharing in some of like my classes and stuff is the idea between self-care, which has been very popularized on Instagram, on social media, and true like soul care, like taking care of yourself, body, soul, mind, and spirit. Those are completely different things. Like we see self-care as I got my hair done, I got a pedicure, I drank my coffee while it was hot, and none of those things are bad. Like eat your chocolate, take your bubble bath, yes, but all those are doing is actually taking care of our outer body. They're not necessarily investing in our mental health, in our emotional health, in our spiritual health, in all of these things that are under the surface that make up who we are and are even more, they subconsciously drive all of our emotions, all of our feelings, all of our actions. So like, you're taking care of your body going, whoa, why didn't my 1 hour pedicure cure my mom exhaustion and my burnout? I mean, because all you were doing was getting your toenails painted. Like when was the last time you checked in with your mental health or your emotional health? Or like we were just talking about, when was the last time you said, I need some help. I need help. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I need some help to be able to be the best mom that I can be and to be the best version of myself. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
And so that kind of leads us right into your motto. And it's something that's funny because in one of my parenting groups, this is something we kind of say to each other as moms, but is going from surviving to thriving. And I said, I think that resonates with so many parents. But what does thriving mean to you, and how do you help parents make that shift?
Yeah. So, I mean, we already kind of touched on it a little bit. I feel like I've kind of woven it throughout there because it's one of my core messages that it's going to look different for everybody. I can't give you, oh, well, thriving means that, your house is perfectly peaceful, there's never dishes in the sink, and you're happy. Because just because that's one person's ideal of what thriving would look like for them does not mean that that's what thriving would look like for me in my life, in my current season. So I think that's one of the things that it can be kind of hard to like put your finger on because people really want the cookie cutter, check the box, just give me the steps to make me happy. And I'm like, well, it doesn't work that way because I don't know the stressors in your life. I don't know what's going on with you. And so until we actually start working together to pinpoint some of those things, I can't necessarily put my finger on, well, for you, thriving would look like this. So some of the things that I work with women and clients is actually doing some deeper inner healing. And we work back through to find a lot of their pain points or, triggers, if you will, that are driving their actions today. Because so many of us don't realize that the way that we're parenting is a direct result of the way we were parented, what was modeled to us. But even more than that, it's a direct result of like the pains, the traumas that we went through as children. And we might not even remember them. They can be subconscious, they can just be internal ones. But once you start putting your fingers on some of them and you see the connection between like something that happened to you when you were a child that really hurt you and maybe the way that you're parenting your children or the way that you're triggered by their anger or their disobedience, it sets you on a completely different trajectory of life. And so I guess for me, I'm like, I finally have come to the conclusion that thriving is not what we portray on social media. Thriving
Nope.
does not mean
Nope.
right. Thriving is not the perfectly clean house, always smiling children, never having a bad hair day. Like that's not thriving. You can be a hot mess mom on the outside and on the inside have this deep sense of peace and well-being and like have that deeper sense of joy inside of you. So that is what I work for. And I know that sounds like maybe slightly more ethereal than like a practical answer, but I'm like with people, I've really recognized that, particularly as parents wanting to raise responsible and capable and emotionally healthy children, we have to be all of those things first ourselves. I can't help my children to be emotionally regulated if I'm emotionally dysregulated. I can't fake any of that. So yeah, my work has a lot more to do with helping people find deep inner freedom than probably like setting their house in order. Although I do talk about all that stuff with my clients and I help them figure out, chore charts and routines and how to help train their children to take over different household chores and make sure your family is invested. Like all of those practical things are 100% a part of having a thriving home life. But mostly it goes back to you and what's going on inside of you and whether or not, you've healed some of those issues within yourself.
I think that that's definitely a true piece, like you said, with like just the different things that trigger you, because that was the same just last night. My son, and now I don't even remember what he mumbled something under his breath that just instantly set me off.
Yes.
And it was just like totally set me off. And it was just like being able to like, after he was in bed, because I just like, it was on the way up the stairs, but to be able to like sit down and be like, okay, why did that like totally cause me in my brain to like malfunction and
Yes.
not be able to like continue just like walking up the stairs to go to bed.
Right. And I think so many of us, particularly as parents, we focus on the behavior. Oh, well, my child talked back to me like they're so naughty or they're, whatever. Like we're so quick to focus on the behavior. But truthfully, the behavior is just a red flag that something deeper is going on. And I talk about this a lot in one of my master classes about 2 strategies to handle a misbehaving child. We talk all about this and the idea that your child's quote misbehaviors are actually just red flags that one of their deeper psychological needs are not being met. And when you have that shift as a parent, that it's not just them being naughty, I think it changes the way we parent. But at the same time, I take the 3 basic psychological needs and I like to relay those to parents also, that you as a parent have the same needs. And if your needs are not being met, if we haven't worked on our traumas and our triggers and all these different things, all we do is continue to react, rather than responding to our child's behavior and making choices based off our belief systems, our principles, all of that.
Which, like you said, the reaction, that reactionary piece. And then and you had said too, like, how can I expect my child to control their emotions when
Right.
my emotional uncontrolled doesn't look the same as their tantrum, but at the same time, you're like, nope, that was an adult tantrum right there.
Yep, 100%. 100%. And how many of us never recognize that when we, lose our cool with our kids or like just do these different behaviors? Yes, we are 100% having an adult temper tantrum, but oh no, I'm in control of my emotion. Are you? Are
Yeah.
you?
Nope.
Like, that's
Guilty.
kind of the thing that I think we all need to come to is there are realities to the fact that our children mirror our behaviors. And like we're teaching them every single day through every action that we take. And either we're teaching them, some unhealthy and not great behaviors, or we're working hard to teach them healthier concepts and how to be in control of themselves.
Right. And like you said, it's not the we view the teaching moments as when we're trying to teach our child
Yes.
because they just had a reaction, but they're seeing the teaching moments as like, well, this just happened and mom acted like that.
Yes. And let's be honest, actions speak louder than words. You can
Yep.
preach at your child all the live long day, but if you say, well, you need to control your anger as you're sitting there yelling at them,
Yelling.
what message does that actually portray to them? So I think there's so much in that idea that yes, 100%, like you said, we see parenting or teaching our children as those moments where we're like, okay, you lied to me. Now let's work this through. Like those are our quote parenting moments, but they're not. Parenting is every single day. It's everything that we're doing. It's how we're living our lives because our kids see that. They see if we're acting differently in the privacy of our home or while we're out in public, or, if we say one thing, but we do another, if we tell them they need to control their actions, their behavior, their emotions, but then we're out of control. They see all of that. And our actions speak so much louder than anything we could ever say to them.
So along those lines, what would be one of like the most rewarding transformations you've seen in a client working through your programs?
Oh man. Okay. So like I said, I know it's so funny because people are like, well, you're just a parent coach. Like, what do you mean you do deep
Just
inner
a
healing
parent
stuff?
coach. Come on.
Well, I mean, but okay, like the idea of people think of a parent coach as like, you're going to give me the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s of how to be the perfect mom. And I'm like, number one, there is no such thing as the perfect mom. Number two, there is no one size fits all. Yes, I have techniques, I have methods that are scientifically proven, psychologically based that I'm going to teach you that really are going to help you in your day-to-day life, with your children, with your home life, all of that. But we need to circle back around to, if you are not at your best, if you are not operating at your highest potential, if you are not, emotionally regulated on the inside, you can only fake it so much. The techniques are still going to help you, but you're still going to have your triggers there. You're still going to react to things around you because you're acting subconsciously out of hurts, out of trauma. And so with a couple of the moms that I worked with, we got to do some really deep sessions, inner healing sessions, where it's such a privilege for me because I get to watch these individuals walk themselves into healing. And I don't really know how to explain it beyond that just through asking questions, it allows them the safe space to think back and to go through some really painful memories, maybe from, childhood or adolescence, or even as a newborn. I have had clients go all the way back to infancy. And while you don't have those cognitive memories, psychology has proven that our bodies do sense the emotions around us. We do, even as babies, have these imprints of memories. Was I wanted? Was I loved? Was I well taken care of? How did my mom respond to me? And so those are actually some of our most powerful drivers in our behaviors and how we act the rest of our lives. And so one client in particular had such a beautiful session because she was able to go back and recognize that as much as in her brain, she knew her parents loved her. That's what she kept saying. Well, I know they loved me. And she'd, list all these ways. And well, they just did this. And well, it just was cultural that they didn't really ever say, I love you. But we were able to go back and put our finger on the fact that as a young girl, her heart craved hearing her mom, hearing her dad say, I love you. And she never got that. And so we did a lot of work around that. And it was one of those like goosebump moments where as she was speaking out some things about her life and walking herself into a deeper level of freedom and understanding, she made the connection between how she was treated as a young girl and how she treated her children. And to get to watch that kind of transformation, to watch her go from more like withdrawn and she had more like tension and stress on her face to like watch her shoulders lift and release that burden. And all I can describe it as like her face had more peace and light and like she just was calmer. But she made that connection of, I'm operating on the same thing. I'm parenting the same way that my parents are parenting, and I haven't told my children enough. Like, it's hard for me to say, I love you to my children, especially when they're misbehaving or especially when they trigger me. And she came to that conclusion on her own. She came to that conclusion without guilt, without shame. Oh, I'm a horrible mom. I'm such a disgusting person. No, she understood fully why she was reacting that way. And it gave her that like instant ability to take steps forward in her parenting and to begin to, she put her finger on something that was going to transform the way that she interacted with her children and the way that she parented from there on out. And yeah, so that's just like one of the stories that pops into my mind. I've had a couple of different experiences like that where most of mine are all virtual. I have gotten to do a couple of sessions in person, but most of them are virtual. And even being virtual, you get like the goosebumps, the chills. You're like, whoo, that was so powerful. It's so incredibly honoring to get to watch these amazing parents who are, deeply wanting change in their own life and wanting to be the best parent that they can be for their children, walk themselves into newer levels of freedom, healing, understanding. Like, it's the best thing that I get to do as a parenting coach. I love teaching people techniques to handle their toddlers and how to get their children to cooperate, not disobey them. Like, I love all that. I love the practicals. But the deeper sessions where we get to find healing together is words can't describe how beautiful it is.
It's funny that you say that words can't describe, because when you were going through that story the first time and right before you said goosebumps is like right when you're like, I love you, the same thing, I got goosebumps.
Yes.
It's like, and it's just like, it's beautiful and it's powerful, but even that doesn't like fully describe and embrace like that change in that moment.
I
And that
don't think you can
aha.
describe it until you've
No.
experienced it yourself. When you've experienced that shift, like that immediate shift, when you put those puzzle pieces together inside of yourself and you access a new level of freedom, you're like, oh, like it is. It's so cool for me, so honoring to get to be a part of that. Like, I can't describe how cool it is to get to be a part of somebody's transformation, but to sit there and witness even just the change physically in them, where they come in looking, sad and heavy and drawn, and then they go out just more lifted and light and excited about life. I'm like, it's amazing. It's such a great privilege for me.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, because you're, like you said, to experience and be a part of that, because I'm, like I said, sitting here as just like third party hearing the story.
Yeah.
And even I noticed, like, I just had like a stupid cheesy grin on my face.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
like, oh,
Yes.
I'm so happy for her.
Yes. Yep. And that's usually how I feel when I leave my sessions. Like, I am always on a different like energy high because I get all those endorphins too and all that excitement that they're experiencing. And so I sit here and just smile like a crazy person because I'm so happy and I'm so thrilled to watch them. And I know it will impact their life forever. Like, that it'll be a shift in their life moving forward. And so I just sit ear to ear, big, huge, cheesy grin, just like, this is so amazing.
Well, this has all been incredible, Stephanie, but we are nearing the end of our time here. So if you could wrap up with any piece of advice that you'd want to share with our listeners, what would it be?
Whew, loaded question right there. I think my piece of advice would truly be that it's not selfish to invest in yourself. It's not selfish to invest in true inner healing and making sure that you are the best version of yourself. I think we just have such a hard time as that, particularly as women in our culture, as moms. We've been preconditioned to think that we have to be pouring out, and there's truth to that. But if your cup is empty, if you are drained and burnt out and overwhelmed, you're not pouring out good things, if anything at all. Like when we're so
nothing
depleted.
to give.
Yes, when we're so depleted, you have nothing to give, or, that's where we are impatient or sharp with our children or constantly, losing it. Those aren't good things. And that comes from the fact that we're not investing in ourselves. When you take the time to invest in, like learning how to be a good parent, having that competency strategy of like, I know techniques and methods to help work with my children, but also finding those deeper levels of freedom and investing in your own self-healing, all of that overflows to your family, to your children. And it's like, it is the least selfish thing you can do. It's actually like one of the best things you can do for your kids. So to all you mamas out there, especially if you are tired, burnt out, exhausted, please know that it is not selfish to ask for help. It is not selfish to take time for yourself. It is not selfish to do the inner work, to invest in yourself, to understand your triggers, your traumas, and to heal from them. That is the best thing you can do for yourself and for your family.
And with that, mamas, there's nothing that I could add to increase the need for that statement. So like we end always, until next time, keep doing your best.
Thank you for joining me on this roller coaster of momming right here on Momma-sota. I hope you enjoyed our candid conversation about all things parenting, where perfection is left at the door and real life takes center stage. Stay tuned for more heartfelt, unfiltered discussions in the next episode. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review Momma-sota on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. Until next time, this is Monica Eickman signing off. Keep rocking that mom life, and remember, you've got this.